like to call the December 13th, 2016 Longmont City Council meeting to order. This is a regular session. Could we please start with the roll call? Oops. I guess
Oh, here. We're all here, except Dave.
My apologies, Mayor. Mayor Coombs?
Here.
Council members Bagley?
Here.
Christensen? Here. Finley? Here. Moore?
Here.
Peck? Here. Santos? And we know that Council Member Santos will be tardy. So, Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay, let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anyone wishing to speak at first call, public invited to be heard, will need to add his or her name to the list outside the council chambers. Only those on the list will be invited to speak at first call, public invited to be heard. Speakers who do not place their name on the list will have an opportunity to speak at final call, public invited to be heard, or on any of the public hearing items during the meeting. So, Dawn, are there any agenda revisions?
Mayor, there is one revision. Staff has asked for general business item 11A to be removed. It will be brought back in January.
Okay. Is there a report from City Manager?
No report, Mayor, Council.
Mayor, your special report tonight is a special presentation from the Colorado Department of Transportation on high occupancy vehicle policy changes in 2017. And David Spector from the Director of CDOT's High Performance Transportation Enterprise is here to make a presentation.
All right. Thank you.
I turned it off instead of on. Mayor, council members, hi, nice to see you. My name is David Spector. I'm the director of the Colorado High Performance Transportation Enterprise. Thank you for having me tonight. We're happy to be here to talk to you a little bit about the transition that's going to be occurring in our state on January 1st as we move from HOV2 to HOV3. Give you some information, give your residents some information, entertain any questions that that you have for us. I know some of you have seen this presentation before, so if you fall asleep, that's okay. If you sneeze, apparently you have your HOV3 napkins in front of you, so feel free to use those as we go through the presentation. I understand I'll keep this a little brief so that you guys can get to your very full agenda. CDOT and HPTE operate a network of express lanes throughout our region. Most of these have come online within the past 18 months. As you can see on the map, we operate the we oversee the operation of the US 36 express lane along US 36 between Boulder and Denver. We have opened and we directly operate the I-25 express lane north to 120th Avenue. We have the Mountain Express lane that's operating, and then in planning or actual construction, we have express lanes down on the south end of the metro area, C470 north into Fort Collins, and we're also proposing express lanes on Central 70 as well. So we have a number of express lanes. Two of these express lanes allow people to travel in those express lanes for free if they have a carpool. Those two lanes are US 36 and I-25. And you can get a pass from our Express Toll website or our customer service center. It's either a sticker or a switchable transponder so that you can drive in any of those express lanes for a reduced rate. If you use your license plate, you can go to those express lanes and pay a higher rate. The express lanes have been open now for about 18 months, as I said, on US 36 and in the mountains, and they have been operating really wonderfully in terms of managing congestion and improving traffic time reliability. What you see here is a heat map, and I was chastised a little bit early this morning. This is a heat map of our Mountain Express lane. We do have one of our US 36 express lane, but I wasn't able to get it, Councilman, before the meeting tonight. I have added a slide that hopefully will be a little bit responsive, so apologies I wasn't in the office. But as you can see here, this is the length of an express lane. This is our Mountain Express lane from mile marker 228 down to mile marker 243. What you see on the left, the red, is bad. Those are traffic speeds of about 5 to 10 miles per hour, stop-and-go traffic on Martin Luther King Day weekend before construction of that lane. After construction of that lane, the free lanes, the general purpose lanes, not the express lane, freed up, as you can see on the right. The green and yellow is free flow traffic, speeds no slower than 45 miles per hour. So on this Mountain Express lane, we're seeing the same things that we're seeing on the US 36 Express lane, is more consistent travel times, reliable travel times for the people in the free lanes. The people in the express lanes are moving even faster. On US 36, we're seeing the same trends. So as you see in the lower right-hand corner, from pre-construction in 2011 to last year in 2015, we're seeing rush hour speeds that are anywhere from 20 to almost 30% faster than they were pre-construction. That translates to about 10 miles an hour faster if you're traveling in rush hour traffic. So if you were stuck on the Boulder Turnpike at 35 miles an hour before, you're now moving along at 45 miles an hour. And again, that's in the free general purpose lanes. So the folks that are choosing to use the express lane to pay a toll are freeing up the general purpose lanes for other travelers. This project's been a national model. It's being looked at by folks around the country as a multimodal example of what you can do with a managed demand management lane for congestion. And RTD has also seen its ridership increase as a result of the success of this lane. Tonight we want to talk about for folks who are carpooling, and how are you going to carpool? Because on January 1st, a carpool, which used to be 2 people, will change to being 3 people. And in order to go for free on US 36 or I-25 in those express lanes, you will need to have 3 people in your car. You can always go for free in those general purpose lanes, which are now moving faster, regardless of how many people you have in your car. But if you want to go in the express lane for free, 3 people starting on January 1st. In order to do that, you need a switchable transponder. These switchable transponders we've been distributing for over a year and a half now. We've distributed over 115,000 of these transponders to date, so the adoption rate is really, really high, and the penetration rate is high for people who want to use. These are great because they allow you to choose. I would like to travel for free HOV because I have enough people in my car, or I want to choose to pay a toll because I need to get somewhere quickly or drop my kid off to daycare. This gives you the optionality to be able to do any of those things and travel in all of the express lanes around the corridor, including other toll lanes like the Northwest Parkway or E470. On January 1st, we do change. We get a lot of questions as to why. Why is this change happening? Well, in 2013, the CDOT Transportation Commission and the DRCOG Regional Council of Governments approved resolutions that authorized this change to take effect in 2017. This is for 2 main reasons. This will help ensure trip reliability in our lanes, and it also is because of the transportation funding problems we have here in the state of Colorado. As many of you know, transportation funding comes directly from the sales tax. There are no additional general fund dollars that come to CDOT to speak of, and so to build new capacity, we use express lanes. We borrow money up front to pay for the infrastructure. We pay that loan back with the tolls that we generate off those lanes. So HOV3 does 2 things. It helps ensure trip reliability for traveling public, as well as helps to pay for our transportation infrastructure needs so that people can realize the benefits of driving on the new US 36. Motorcycles can now, as of today, or it was earlier in October, travel in these HOV express lanes for free without a sticker tag. If you are a person who carpools all the time and you only carpool, then you are going to be able to get those switchable transponders for free. Right now we pass on the cost. It's just a pass-through of $15 for that transponder. If you want to have the choice to use it in a pay lane like E470 or our Mountain Express lane, and to carpool. But if you're a carpool purist, someone who carpools all the time, you can get that transponder for free and enjoy the benefits of carpooling without the additional charge.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. The little stickers, so those are void now?
No, they weren't.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. So the little stickers are not void. There's over 1 million of those stickers in distribution. They allow you to travel in any of those lanes and pay the reduced rate. However, they don't allow you to be able to switch and declare, I'm in a carpool, I'm going HOV. So with the sticker in your window, my wife has the sticker in her car and I have the HOV transponder in my car. I travel with my kids for school drop-off and whatnot, so I can switch it. In her car, we never really use the HOV lanes on US 36 or I-25, so we just have the sticker. With that sticker, you can still travel all across the metro area in those lanes at a reduced rate.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about this for people who carpool all the time. We've already rebated folks who fit that description, who were only carpooling all the time before this. We wanted to make sure we got that rolled out. And if you are in the spring, when we do go live with our technical fix, those transponders will be available to you for free if you are a carpool purist. What can travelers do? We know this is not going to be popular, and we are going to try to do everything we can to help ease this transition for folks. So we've been on the circuit presenting to city councils, optimist clubs, rotaries, on television. We're trying to spread the message so that people know about this. We want to make sure there are no surprises. We know full well that some people will be surprised, but we're trying to get out there and spread the message. There are a lot of things that you can do to help make this transition easier for you. You can find a third carpooler, and we're going to give you options to do that. You can ride the bus. You can choose to pay a toll. Or remember, those general purpose lanes, always free, all the time, no matter how many people you've got in your car. So we've had our awareness campaign, 3's Free. Maybe you've seen it on billboards or in the media, heard it on the radio. I hope you have. And what are we going to do to help? We're really going to, in addition to all the public outreach we're doing, we want to help you get into a 3-person carpool. Dr. Cog has changed its Way to Go website so that now you can find 3 people to get into a carpool. RTD, the transit system, that's a great way to get around town. 36 Commuting Solutions and Smart Commute Metro North are partners with us, and they're offering incentives for people to get you into carpools. If you go to their websites, you say, I'm going to switch to a carpool, they will give you incentives, sometimes up to $75 to make that switch. We're working with folks like Lyft, ride-sharing organizations who offer a carpool option. Lyft's option is Lyft Line, Uber's is Uber Pool, and they're going to be offering incentives as we roll this out in January 1st. So there's a lot of different alternatives for folks. You can go to our website at www.cdot.gov/programs/express lanes. It's a long website, but there is the one-stop shop for everyone to get all the information they need on this transition. Wanted to keep this brief so that we could entertain any questions. I know you have a full agenda, but I am happy to answer any questions you've got, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Well, I have a question. I just came back from a trip to Seattle, and they have 3+ carpool lanes. But, you know, I was in a rental car, but there's 4 people in our car, and my brother-in-law said I could just drive in the. So are they just more trusting in Seattle, that they trust that you're not going to be cheating, and here we don't trust people? Or
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we're on the honor system here, too. We trust that if you're in your car and you have the switchable transponder, you will switch to HOV when you're HOV, and you'll switch to toll when you're toll mode. The reason our system works the way it does is because we have a single lane that has to allow for bus traffic, toll-paying customers, HOV customers, and so to have that single lane, we need a way for people to self-declare and allow you to be either HOV or not. Now, I joke that we rely on the honor system. We do, but there is enforcement, and it's a up to a $250 fine if law enforcement catches you trying to evade the tolls by some means, either self-declaring or putting some sort of picture of a head next to you in the passenger seat.
Okay.
Law enforcement is out there, and they are enforcing this.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So David, what happens if you put a switchable transponder and have a sticker on your car? How does that get read?
Yeah, Councilmember Moore. I think at that point your car might explode as you go under a toll gantry. Our toll services provider E470 would read that, and they would either contact you, when you get your express toll bill, you would notice something funny. You shouldn't do that. Our express toll customer service folks will be able to help you walk through what can you do. If you already have a sticker in your car and you get a switchable transponder and you want to switch it out, our express toll customer service reps are really good, and they can help walk you through how to do that. If you do happen to do that, please just call our customer service center. We'll be happy to waive one-time occurrences so that people can get used to this transition and this switch.
And my second question is there any allowance for alternative fuel vehicles on the express lanes?
Any allowance, excuse me?
You know, like some states have no toll for alternative fuel vehicles.
Right. It's a great question. Some states do have that. Colorado started way back in the day before we even had express lanes and people had to pay. We did start with a pilot project for exemptions for hybrid or for electric vehicles. Priuses were the types of vehicles that were most out there. That program was capped. It has a cap on it of the number of vehicles. So folks who have electric vehicles now can put their name on the wait list for that. The the problem with that is we want to encourage people to use electrical vehicles, right? But the problem with that is it's sort of antithetical to how we fund transportation improvements. Sales tax dollars go to fund transportation improvements. Electric vehicles aren't paying for not sales tax, fuel tax dollars. Electric vehicles aren't paying for the fuel tax. Here in Colorado, it would be tough to allow them to go for free. As we're paying back the loans on these lanes, the rating agencies have said the biggest factor that they use when assessing how to rate our transactions is the free vehicle policy. And a free vehicle policy that allows electric vehicles and HOV2 is a deal that just wouldn't get financed.
Right. Thank you.
So what's the justification of having motorcycles free in the HOV lanes? I don't see the logic there. But
Thank you, Mayor. Yep, motorcycles have always been free. It's a federal law, actually, that motorcycles are able to travel in HOV lanes for free. Prior to this point, prior to October, they had to actually have a sticker so that we could read them and tell that they were free. As part of this shift, we've agreed to eliminate that administrative burden for motorcycle riders. So now they can ride in our HOV express lanes for free without a sticker. Now, however, if you are a rider and you want to go on Northwest Parkway or E470 or a Mountain Express lane to pay a toll, you can do that. If you want to pay the reduced rate, you still would want to get a sticker so that you can pay the reduced rate.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so thank you so much for educating our community and educating us.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. If you have any other follow-up questions, I'll leave some cards, and always feel free to call me directly.
All right, thank you. Okay, now it's time for public invited to be heard. And Marissa Martin is the first person.
Hello. It's Marcia Martin, actually.
Oh, yeah, okay, Marcia.
That's okay. I live in South Longmont in the Quail Ridge neighborhood, and I am here to speak in favor of Resolution 123. I actually, this is the first time that I have ever communicated with a member of the Longmont City Council, and I...
Magical, isn't it? Having a good time.
Yes, and I'm achieved communication because I was writing to government at several levels and encouraging my friends who lived in different municipalities to do the same thing, to try to persuade them to pass a resolution like Resolution 123. Because it seems to me that we've gone through a season now where we have a lot of divisiveness. I retired to Longmont because it's such a beautiful, well-run little city. We have everything that's valuable to me. We have enablement for seniors in transportation. We have very affordable internet service. In other words, you guys have done a fabulous job of making this a great place to live. And we're a very diverse city, and I don't want to see this wave of discord that we seem to be in the middle of it, to sweep our country, and I don't want it to come here. And I want every city to just put a stake in the ground and say, not here. And if we do that, then I think that we can get that to die down. And it needs to die down. I got a picture as a text from my daughter the other day. She lives in Broomfield, works in Boulder, so we've got a big swath of the Front Range covered among us. And she was so upset when she texted me this picture because the car she parked next to in the Flatirons office park in Boulder had been keyed. And I'm going to pass these pictures around. Would one of you just hold that up so that the people in the audience can see it? The car had been vandalized, and neither of us had ever seen anything like that happening here, and we didn't think it was something that would happen here. So I brought it to show you that we really do need a stake in the ground, that we are an inclusive place, that we don't indulge ourselves in our prejudices, and that's all I have to say. So I support Resolution 123, and my time's up.
Thank you, Marcia. Suzanne McHugh?
Hi there. My name is Suzanne McHugh. This is also my first time really interacting with you guys. I've been a Longmont resident since 2002. Over the weekend, I read an article about a resolution that you will be discussing this evening. Marcia mentioned that same resolution. It's a resolution of the Longmont City Council to reaffirm our constitutional rights and our community values. And I felt both relief and concern that some of the comments made in this article seem to downplay the importance of a firm position against hate and bigotry in our town. I wanted to share with you some recent anecdotes from my own social circle that support the need for this resolution. These are not stories that would be reported to the police, but they are nonetheless examples of the very real fear and intolerance that people in Longmont are living with right now. The following that I'll read to you is an excerpt from a letter to the editor that was submitted to several papers on behalf of myself and 4 other Longmont residents. The business it refers to was named directly in the original letter. Following the presidential election, a shocking incident took place at a national chain store in Longmont. A friend of ours who is Mexican-American was shopping with her husband and 2 school-aged daughters. She is pregnant and in her 3rd trimester. She asked a staff member for help finding something at the store. This staff member replied, "Trump won the election. I don't have to help you." This interaction, understandably, made her daughters cry. At first, we didn't want to believe that this happened, unable to accept, bless you, that someone would be so outright hateful. We have heard other stories about people who embrace racist and hateful values acting more emboldened and open with their hate, but here was an example in our own hometown of Longmont. After hearing about this awful encounter, one of us called to discuss this matter with the manager of the store and was hung up on. When the manager was called a second time, the manager claimed that there was no proof that this interaction took place and that no action would be taken. Hate is not a value that Longmont will tolerate. Regardless of individual political associations, this act of hate was wrong and hurtful. Another story that I can share with you is about a friend who is a resident of Longmont and a Muslim. After the recent election, this friend told me that she and her family have recently made preparations to flee the United States, if necessary, because they are uncertain what the future holds for American Muslims. Will they be asked to carry special identification cards? Will they be forced into relocation centers? She confided that she has actively started to downsize her family's possessions so that it'll be easier for them to leave quickly if they have to. So unfortunately, I'm sure that there are many other stories like these. It would be wrong of us to dismiss the climate of intolerance being promoted on a national level right now. And it is naive to pretend that this hate has no bearing on the psyche or experiences of our neighbors. Longmont may be one municipality in a country full of towns and cities, but this is our city. Our city government has a moral and civic obligation to demonstrate support for those who are most vulnerable right now and to remind those who feel empowered to speak and act in hateful ways that this is not sanctioned by our city and it never will be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jeffrey Justice?
Jeffrey Justice, 1503 Lamplighter Drive. I'm here to speak on 123 also. I don't have the same opinions as the previous speakers. This seems to be all about the election. My candidate did not win the election, so I'm in the same position as everyone else, but I don't feel the same way. Line 11 of this resolution, to state that we are a city not ruled by fear. Really? Are we? Is a presidential election going to make the new administration come in here like a third world dictator and turn Longmont into 1936 Berlin? I don't think so. We have a constitution. I've lived through many presidents that I didn't support, starting back with Nixon that I can remember. We have a constitution, we have a political process. And I don't feel that there's a climate of fear here in Longmont. I think that resolutions like this and the speakers we just heard amplify this and cause people to fear. That's my opinion. Now, last summer, talk about these defacing, these pictures that just got passed around. I could have brought some pictures in. There were swastikas in my neighborhood in Longmont. I called in. I didn't hear Polly coming to me to see how she could help me. The only person that helped was Councilperson Bagley, who was in Hawaii at the time, who emailed Gabe Santos to try to get something done. Nothing was done. So I had to go to Channel 7. I had to go to the Boulder Daily Camera and get media coverage of these swastikas all over the neighborhood. Where was all this hysteria then? I didn't see people saying we were living in a climate of fear and hate. I saw it, and I seemed to be the only one who wanted to do anything about it. And coincidentally, the day after the media coverage, which was embarrassing to Longmont, it was gone. The only call I got from the city of Longmont was a snarky call from some bureaucratic code enforcement. That's it. No one cared about my concerns. So I just think that we don't live in a city of fear here. I assume that none of you are going to allow it to happen. Longmont PD, look at them. When have you seen any racial profiling? When have you seen any accidental discharges? When have you seen any excessive force complaints? When have you seen them shoot some resident's dog dead, like our sister cities, even though they would have been justified in doing so? I trust them, and I trust the political process. Work with the political process and vote in people who can stop this candidate that you don't like. But I think this resolution should be amended, and I really do think that it's a silly political stunt that is encouraging more fear. Thank you.
Thank you. Dwayne Leese.
Good evening. My name is Dwayne Leese, and I live at 2686 Pearl Howlett Road, Longmont. Discrimination and oppression doesn't happen like that. It happens in slow waves. There are things that happen that all of a sudden that sets us on edge. This last election cycle was just such a cycle. Things were said during that particular cycle that if they had been said 20 years ago, everything would have been turned upside down. But it's being normalized. That's what the problem is. And it's not that we have problems where the police are shooting people here. No, it's that there's a general tone that is starting to be set. Now, you have to have empathy to understand where other people are coming from. Guess what? I think we are monolithically white in this room right now. Have you ever had a time when someone's come up to you and said, "Boy, what the hell are you doing here?" Changes your outlook. I worked as a singer when I was younger, and first time I ever hung out with black people. And what's really fascinating is you go into a coffee shop at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're there with a couple of black guys, and there's nobody else in the place, and it takes you 15 minutes to get somebody to come over and give you water. Now, you don't know. Now, this was in the 70s, 60s, 70s. You don't know whether they just didn't see you or just what's going on. But you have to have empathy in this kind of situation. Making such a small statement as this is a small gesture. but it is standing up and saying something. We all have the right to say things, and this gentleman here has perfectly the right to say what he had to say. But I think the rest of the city also has a right to be able to say, we don't want this. We don't support this. We want people to get along. We want to respect one another. We want to live in peace and harmony and respect each and every individual for who they are. I 100% support this resolution.
Thank you. Marissa Dirks.
Hi, I'm Marisa Dirks, and I live at 12874 North 95th Street. I went to Hygiene Elementary, Longspeak Junior High, and Longmont High School. I came back home after building my career in the Midwest. I love Longmont, but there are a few things in Longmont's past that we shouldn't be proud of. The KKK had control of the city council in 1925. There were white trade-only signs still in business windows on Main Street a few years before I was born. A Longmont police officer shot and killed 2 Latino men in 1980. My mom was from Italy, and my dad's parents were from Germany. During World War I, in some states, it was considered an act of sedition to speak German in public. The pejorative term for Italians is WAP, which comes from the term without papers. I have 3 male cousins in my family, all who died tragically because they simply could not be who they were, even in our own family. There is probably not one person in this room who they themselves or a family member or a friend of theirs has not experienced being ostracized or worse for simply being from somewhere, believing in or looking like something, or loving someone. So what Councilwoman Christensen is proposing makes sense, doesn't it? After all, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. It was citizens of Longmont that voted out that Klan-controlled council. It was Longmont Latino veterans working with the support of Longmont police that protested and got rid of those white trade-only signs. And it was a young mom named Marta Moreno who started El Comité after that tragic incident in 1980. But I'm concerned when I read this in the December 8th edition of the Times Call. Quote, "Without numbers, the only evidence available on hate speech and harassment since the election in Longmont are anecdotes," unquote. I think that the intention of that written sentence was to state fact. But does it infer that hate speech and harassment doesn't happen in Longmont? Or is it just not reported? The Southern Poverty Law Center has affirmed 864 reported hate crimes in the 10 days after the election. Some ask if this resolution is redundant or, if appropriate, at city-level government. But there are frightened folks here in Longmont and everywhere, as evidenced by the 400-plus attended meeting that Councilwoman Peck referenced a few weeks ago. If Strider were here, I don't see him in the audience, he'd say, "The road is long." And I think what he means by that is that the work of social justice is never done. Germany consistently teaches Holocaust history as part of required curricula. It does not hurt to affirm what's best about Longmont. Thank you for listening, and thank you for serving your city.
Thank you, Marisa. Michael Belmont.
Mayor Coombs, Council, thank you for the time. Michael Belmont, 841 Tenacity Drive. Dear City of Longmont resident, the city values community feedback. So begins the letter from Mayor Coombs for the recent survey concerning the funding of Windy Gap project. But the survey was not at all about feedback in the all-important decision-making process for this massive project. Rather, it was a crumb from the table of We have decided your financial fate. How do you want to pick up the tab? It did not contemplate the if we should overbuild question, but rather, how do you want us to bill you for our exclusive executive choice to supersize this project? The survey results showed a resounding rejection of virtually all three options to pay, warning you that the citizens are not vested in paying for the onerous water rate increases without a hearing. You are making a grave mistake by not giving the citizenry an open forum to weigh in on the basics of how many acre feet we should fund for future needs, beginning with 6,000 as the minimum adequate amount recommended by your own water demand evaluation, and to vet publicly other alternatives we have in the future should we need more capacity. But, you say, the citizens cannot understand something as complicated as water planning and storage. Echoes of Wall Street. You can't understand these subpar mortgage-backed securities, so just trust us that they will be good for you. Interesting how most of us now have a pretty good grasp of mortgage-backed securities after those once incomprehensible investments brought down the entire economy. Oh, your constituents will learn about water planning either now by your good judgment to include them in the discussion, or in the near future when they realize the burden you have placed upon them without community feedback. Remember that little thing, the city values, according to the mayor's proclamation. My beef tonight is not that you are deciding on a considerable amount of storage beyond the projected need, but that you completely left out of the process the very ones that will pay the high price for that decision. Since you must require this decision, your citizens, to purchase this genuinely needed vehicle, doesn't it make sense to give them a voice in whether or not it's a Honda, a Lexus, or a Rolls? Oh, the citizens will speak on the matter, either now, from the wise foresight by giving them your wise foresight, the voice in determining the scope of the project, or the next November when they speak with their vote, having discovered that you willfully excluded them from input on an onerous financial commitment that they now must bear to perpetuity. Need I elaborate on the implication? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Terry Goom.
Terry Goon at 741 Martin Street. I want to address the City Council tonight about the proposed resolution concerning both constitutional rights and community values. I don't believe this resolution should be passed, as the three parts of the proposal are incompatible with each other. Part 1 affirms our constitutional rights. That's a good part, but not really needed. We affirm those all the time. Part 2 seeks to confirm our community values as a safe, healthful, respectful, and welcoming community with fair opportunities for all residents to live, work, play, etc., etc. Will not stand for bullying, threats, violence, or bigotry. Also, the people of Longmont stand together to protect and respect each other, no matter what our difference is, and we celebrate our rich and abundant diversity, as well as take pride in our strength together. Then Part 3, the resolution asks that the Council repeals all resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict with this one, but only to the extent of such inconsistency. But the resolution itself is inconsistent with the way that even the city government runs, and maybe even the way the city government has to run. If we take a quick look at some examples, the city chose to use eminent domain to take the property owned by Dillard's and give it to another for the purpose of tax revenue. That could be considered unfair. It could be considered disrespectful to Dillard's, and I'm sure there were some threats involved if they didn't just move. As a city council, you voted on a moratorium for fracking, denying potential revenue to companies or people who owned those rights. They were not paid for their loss, and even the concept of fair reimbursement has not been covered. Many people who attended those meetings felt threatened, bullied, and fearful during that time due to the riotous nature of the people there. Both of these examples are inconsistent with the proposed resolution before you. If you start looking at the Bill of Rights, you really get into a muddle. You cannot confirm our community values as safe and confirm our Second Amendment constitutional rights at the same time when some people don't feel safe when they see others carrying firearms, while others don't feel safe without carrying a firearm. We all have First Amendment freedom of speech, but how does that fit with concerns about bullying? If you meet someone who is a bigot, the first thing you want to do is call them out on it. Now that person gets to feel bullied or not respected. I can only imagine, Councilman Bagley, and I don't know you very much, but you did not feel safe in this space to say you didn't want this resolution without first declaring you were a never Trumper. The whole resolution only works if all citizens are perfect, nice, and in agreement on all things at all times, and we're not. The resolution is ridiculous, and Part 3 is particularly problematic if the council has to use it when considering future actions. Please do not vote for this. The city that I grew up in, I've been here since '69, and love is a nice and welcoming and respectful city. We don't need to prove our bona fides with a feel-good measure that is one-sided and inconsistent and impossible to enforce, and really only there to quote-unquote prove we're not like a Trump city or something. Thank you.
America's Kolmar.
Yes, I am the one. You have in my address 2039 SS Lane, Longmont. I sometimes meditate and stumble on things which I find to be odd. Now, what I mean, many people look at the city council and the city as a cash cow. We need cash from the city. We would force the other people to pay something what I would not pay for. I would like to practice charity. If I'm not mistaken, last time there was a minister here asking some help to take care, which is very nice, take care of the people, homeless people, or whatever. But I don't think that he should ever approach the city council to ask any monetary help. If that was the case, I wonder where is the separation of the church and the state. And beside, each money is attached to a string or a string attached. So there should be given up by the church for the help of government. And it's better just separate and don't interfere with each other, as including building code. I cannot understand why the city would like to tell what kind of church the pastor would like to build. It's not their business. There is a separation of the state and the church. And anyway, I'm going to the charity. I know some company, electrical company, they give away money for students, college, and free, and they run the electrical company, but from the money they make, they give to charity. Now, last time I figured out that charity went to politicians. And sometimes the charity goes to friend. Sometimes with a high salary employee who is rewarded big money. Well, each unit, companies, city, have their own job. And I think the taxpayer like we give for water, I don't see why even from the water money, should take some out for charity, because it makes me poor. So it's very self-unfulfillment to say, share the wealth, but not my wealth. No, I get some tax money wealth, share it. Well, I would like to see when somebody is a leader, if they want to share money, they would start to share their own money with other people before ask the taxpayer to pay any charity. I would bet we would not pay so much for charity. There would be enough money to build a lot more reservoir for water. Well, that's my thing.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for first call, public invited to be heard. So now it's time for the consent agenda.
Mayor, the first item on the consent agenda tonight is ordinance 2017-01, a bill for an ordinance authorizing the city of Longmont to lease the real property known as Vance Brand Municipal Airport Hangar Parcel H-34B, the premises, to Michael T. Dugan and Katharina M. Dugan, the tenant. Item 8B is Resolution 2016-120, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and Boulder County for improvements to the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway crossing of 9th Avenue between Airport Road and Hover Street. 8C is Resolution 2016-121, a resolution of the Longmont City Council authorizing loans from fund balance in the city's fleet fund to the Public Improvement Fund and the Public Safety Fund to purchase replacement radio communication equipment at a savings to the city and providing for repayment of the loans from the Public Improvement Fund and the Public Safety Fund. Item 8D is Resolution 2016-122, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Regional Transportation District for employee eco-passes for 2017. Item 8D is Resolution 2016-123, a resolution of the Longmont City Council to reaffirm our constitutional rights and our community values. And item 8F is to approve 2 capital improvement program amendments.
Is anybody going to pull anything? Councilmember Bagley.
I'd like to pull 8E.
8E. Okay. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to move the consent agenda minus 8E.
All right, let's vote on the consent agenda minus 8E. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Santos absent.
Gabe might be back.
Mayor, on to ordinances on second reading and public hearings on any matter. Item 9A is ordinance 2016-76, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for the expenses and liabilities of the city of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2016. There is no formal presentation.
Okay, are there any questions from council before we open up the public hearing? All right, I'm going to open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-76. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to speak? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-76. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to move ordinance 2016-76.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Santos' absence.
Mayor, item 9B is ordinance 2016-77, a bill for an ordinance amending section 3.04.885 of the Longmont Municipal Code, adopting amended and restated pension plans. Not aware of a formal presentation on this item either.
Okay. If there's no questions from council, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 2016-77. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-77. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to move passage of ordinance 2016-77.
Okay. Let's vote. And that passes 6-0 with Councilmember Santos absent.
Mayor, item 9C is ordinance 2016-78, a bill for an ordinance amending section 2.60.020 of the Longmont Municipal Code on the Library Board. Judith Anderson, I thought was going to be here to give a presentation. She's the library director.
Good evening. There really is not much to present on this. It's just a reduction in terms limit or in terms for each library board member. Right now, each board member is a 5-year term, and this will change it to a 3-year term. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-78. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-78. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to move passage of ordinance 2016-78.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Santos absent.
Mayor, item 9D is ordinance 2016-79, a bill for an ordinance establishing a charge of 75 cents per month for emergency telephone service 911 for wired, wireless, and VoIP, voice over Internet Protocol subscribers in Longmont for the calendar year. No formal presentation on this item.
I just had a quick question. How is, if someone like uses OMA or one of those voice over, how does that get relayed to the city and paid? I was just curious the process of how they collect the money from. Do we know how that's done?
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Paul Zuber. I'm a deputy chief with the Department of Public Safety, and I happen to be on the BRETSA board. So I don't specifically know the answer to your question. I know that we have, as part of our ongoing expenses, we hire an accountant for the BRETSA board, and that person takes care of billing all the telephone providers in Boulder County for that 75 cents per line. And there are roughly 60 to 65 telephone providers in the county of Boulder.
Okay.
So sometimes he gets a check for 50 cents, and sometimes he gets a check for thousands of dollars. But his job is to determine the providers out there and then make sure that they understand that they're required to submit a certain amount for each subscriber for the 911 service charge.
Okay. So I was just wondering, because I signed up for this UMA service, and it was $9 a month, and did they already include that 75 cents as part of that $9, or are they going to charge me an additional 75 cents?
Well, if it's an itemized bill, it should actually say that it's a 911 surcharge. So if you have your telephone service, for example, through CenturyLink, there's actually a separate line that says 911 service charge.
Thank goodness I don't have CenturyLink anymore. So.
Okay, so how this service does it, I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious.
So Mayor, if I can answer, it depends. So when you look at those voice over IP services that you can get, a lot of times it's dependent on what the service actually provides. So, for example, Google Voice doesn't necessarily provide the 911 compatibility in terms of the location, and if you want to do it, you have to get a little device that goes in your home, and then you pay the fee that way based on it. So when you look at those over-the-top services, it varies, and it's whether or not they do feed your location into the 911 system.
Okay, thank you.
You should be on the board.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-79. Does anybody from the public like to speak to this? Come on down.
I'm just amazed about the issue, and it goes back to Al Gore, who passed the one text on the telephone. It was unconstitutional. He was, I think, vice president or something like that. He just attached to it, and it became law. And it's not really law because they did not vote for it. He just decided as a little dictator, hey, we want to get more money. So I wonder, my telephone bill has about 20 items. This and this, RT, this and this. And why do you put more? Instead of charging everybody 75 cents if you have a phone or not, if I understand well, why don't we just make it this? If somebody calls the 911, then charge the person, a user, not everybody. Don't spread that. Don't spread the manure around, okay? Well, thanks.
Okay. All right, anybody else like to speak on this ordinance? Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-79. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to move passage of ordinance 2016-79.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Passes 6-0 with Councilmember Santos absent.
Here, ordinance 2016-80 is item 9E. It's a bill for an ordinance amending sections 3.04.650 and 3.04.655 of the Longmont Municipal Code, adopting amended vacation leave for employee wellness incentive. Staff is available if there are questions, but there's no formal presentation.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-80. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-80. Councilmember Bagley.
I move passage of ordinance 2016-80.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. That passes 6-0 with Councilmember Santos absent.
Your item F is a resolution and an ordinance regarding the Peakview annexation. Item F1 is resolution 2016-24, a resolution finding a parcel of land known as Peakview Estates annexation, generally located at 2725 9th Avenue in Longmont, eligible for annexation. Item F2 is ordinance 2016-81, a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the Peakview Estates annexation, generally located at 2725 9th Avenue in Longmont, and zoning the property R1, residential low density. And it looks like we have a presenter.
Mayor Coombs, City Council, Karen Bryant, Planning and Development Services. So, the application before you is for the Peakview Estates annexation. The application was submitted to the Development Review Committee in February of 2016. The DRC has completed 2 rounds of review for this application and have finalized the proposed annexation and concept plan with regard to all statutory requirements and compliance with City of Longmont Comprehensive Plan and all city codes and standards. The property is approximately 7 acres. It is just south of 9th Avenue, north of Golden Ponds, and directly east and adjacent to the Valley subdivision. The existing use and Boulder County zoning is agriculture. Envision Longmont land use designation is single-family neighborhood, and the requested zoning is the R1 residential low density. The concept plan is for 27 single-family lots with 3 small open space areas and 1 pocket park along with a proposed detention area. The proposed concept plan is consistent with the land use designation of single-family residential in Envision Longmont. As required, they are providing 2 accesses to the property, with the primary access being off of 9th Avenue and the secondary along Wade Road from the existing Valley subdivision. This annexation includes the required right-of-way dedication for the expansion of 9th Avenue in the future to accommodate the required improvements necessary to bring the street into compliance with city standards. At time of the development, the applicant will need to construct all necessary infrastructure for the development, included but not limited to construction of Peakview Street, extension of Wade Road, and all necessary wet and dry utilities and drainage facilities. Outside referral agencies were sent application materials to review and comment on. We did receive comments from the following agencies. Vance Brand Airport. They support the annexation itself, but not the proposed residential use due to proximity of the flight path of the Vance Brand Airport. Northern Colorado Water Conservation District. The annexation must be included within the boundaries of the municipal sub-district. Xcel Energy had no specific comments but did request notification once annexation is complete. There is an easement that Western Area Power Authority has that runs through the property, and they wanted to make sure that they would have access, and also outlined what could and could not be developed within the easement itself. And the St. Vrain School District responded that the proposed 27 single-family lots will not exceed benchmarks, and their specific responses were included in your staff packet. Public notifications and input. The notice distance for this annexation application was 1,000 foot. There was a neighborhood meeting held on February 10th, 2016, and notice and property posting occurred as required by the City of Longmont Land Development Code. The public concerns that were heard both at the neighborhood meeting and also after the notice of application was sent out included possible drainage issues and effects development would have on existing wells, traffic along 9th Avenue, as well as the Wade Drive extension, density and design of homes, specifically with regard to height and view sheds, and fencing between the development and the existing valley subdivision. The applicant did submit a complete traffic study analyzing the impacts of the proposed development on the adjacent street system. The additional traffic from this development will not exceed the capacity for 9th Avenue. However, at time of development, a spacing variance for the proposed Peakview Avenue will be necessary, as will a left-hand turn lane into the development off of 9th Avenue. No right turn lane into the property will be necessary. The property is not within any designated FEMA floodplain, and development on the site shall comply with the best available floodplain information at the time of development. As part of future applications, specifically the preliminary plat submittal for this property, the applicant will need to submit a detailed drainage study of the property to ensure that off-site drainage impacts do not occur. The design and details of the home will be consistent with R1 zoning district, including a height limit of 30 feet and all applicable setback standards. The annexation review criteria, and this was detailed in the staff report, and I can answer questions if council has any. But the Peakview Estates annexation application complies with the Municipal Annexation Act of 1965 as amended. It's the statutory requirements. And then the Peakview Estates annexation complies with the common review criteria in the City of Longmont Land Development Code, as well as the additional review criteria for annexations within the code. And the Peakview Estates annexation application is consistent with the Envision Longmont. Approval and denial. Annexation is a discretionary act, and the decision to annex the property into the City of Longmont is a policy decision. Because annexation is a discretionary act and a policy decision, staff is not making a recommendation on either the resolution or the ordinance. I would like to let the City Council know that the application was analyzed for statutory compliance and with regard to all applicable city code plans and standards. And the proposed concept plan and zoning are consistent with Envision Longmont and meet all applicable city codes, standards, and regulations. In addition, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on September 21st, 2016 for this application and approved Planning and Zoning Commission Resolution 2016-17A in a vote of 7-1 to recommend approval of the Peakview Estates annexation to City Council. Resolution R 2016-124. This resolution finds that the application meets statutory requirements and is eligible for annexation into the City of Longmont, and that the proper public notice was given. Approval of this resolution does not annex the property into the city, and this resolution will need to be either approved or denied prior to a vote on the ordinance. The ordinance Ordinance O-2016-81 conditionally approves the following: the annexation itself, the proposed R1 zoning, and the annexation agreement. The main condition of the ordinance is a transfer of historical water rights. The applicant is working with city to complete that, but that is still an outstanding issue. I would be happy to answer any questions that council has, and the applicant is present to answer any questions as well.
Is there any questions? Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So Karen, back to your point of people, the concerns of the neighborhood, and I think it was before that, you said Vance Brand Airport supports the annexation but not the residential use. Since the airport is a city facility, does that mean the city's not supporting it?
Because this was in the airport influence zone, this application, we sent a letter of recommendation. They are advisory, and their response back was that they had some concerns about the residential component of it.
So it's the airport advisory board, not the airport,
Yes,
correct?
I apologize. Yes, correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure it's clear.
Councilmember Christensen?
Does this area have the same high groundwater concerns that a lot of the land from 9th down to Nelson has?
I am not sure of that, Councilmember Christensen. I do know that the main concern in the comments we were receiving from the public on this particular project with concerns to drainage and wells was that previous work that had been done in the area had affected wells.
Yeah.
And then the drainage ditch. So at this point, this is just the annexation prior to developing.
Right, okay. That's just something that I think really we need to pay attention with all these annexations that we have, where we want people to have high-quality homes and not have homes where water starts filling them up. Thanks.
I just want to mention that Councilmember Santos joined the meeting at 8:08 today, just for the record. Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Maybe Dale can answer this. Is this lot in the flood zone at all? No. Okay, thank you.
Okay, why don't we vote on, excuse me, Councilmember Peck?
Thank you. I have one other question. Actually, I was wondering if David Slater would answer, have you been involved with the concerns about the residential area being in the flight path of the airport, or the landing zone, or whatever you call it?
Zone. Airport influence zone.
Influence zone.
Can I guess you ask me that question one more time? Sorry.
Were you involved at all, or was it just the advisory board that said that the residential part of this development was in the airport influence zone?
Mayor Coombs, Councilmember Peck. Yes, ma'am. I think from early on, since I've been here, there was some discussion and letters that were presented just kind of on a standing basis as far as things within the airport influence zone and things more immediately adjacent to the airport within the airport influence zone, that we wanted to make sure that we had compatible land use as far as how the FAA looks at that. Our preferred type of development is more commercial or industrial or recreational type uses over residential type development. And so I believe we do have a standing letter that explains our position as far as residential development in this area. But the Airport Advisory Board also, I believe, submitted a letter to the DSC here with the city, which was covered tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, why don't we, I'm going to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2016-124 before we open up the public hearing on the ordinance 2016-80. All right, so Resolution 2016-64-124 has been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Okay, that passes 7-0. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-81. Is there any from the, actually 2016-80, excuse me. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on ordinance 2016-80? 81, excuse me, 81. Here we go. 81. Yep. Oh, yep, you did have one. Carl. Hey, Carl. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Carl. I actually used to live on Hayden Court, backed up to that lot. It's a wonderful lot.
Okay.
Golden Ponds is right there. You can hop over the train tracks.
Right.
It's really nice. I would like the City Council to reconsider this matter. Specifically, I don't want them to consider it to be an R1 zone. I think that this type of development is unimaginative, and we don't need more of the same in Longmont. That's a beautiful little strip of land. And there's a lot of really great stuff going on there. You have the apartments right there. You have Golden Ponds. Like I said, you have that undeveloped lot on 9th and Hover. There's a lot of potential there. It's also along the axis of 9th and on Pace on one end, got an open lot. Hover on the other end, you got an open lot. That's an axis that runs perpendicular to the highway that runs through our city. That's a residential line. And I would like the City Council to seek more creative planning than just putting more single-family houses in. We need the housing. We really need the housing, but single-family housing isn't going to suit every need. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak on this ordinance? Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-81. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I'd like to move passage of ordinance 2016-81.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. That passes 7-0 with nobody dissenting or nobody absent.
I'm a dad first.
Absent. All right.
Mayor, item 9G is ordinance 2016-82, a bill for an ordinance amending section 4.60.030 of the Longmont Municipal Code on golf fees. Jeff Friesner, Manager of Recreation and Golf Services, does have a presentation.
Get to break the news to them.
I didn't break the news.
Oh, I know. That wasn't our fault, though. Sorry? I know exactly where you guys are.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Jeff Friesner, Recreation and Golf Manager. Just want to talk a couple of minutes about golf fees. Annually, the 3 golf courses generate around $2.5 million. Those dollars have been sufficient to be able to cover the day-to-day operation and some small infrastructure changes. But one of the things that we discussed with you during the 2017 budget process was that those fees won't cover large infrastructure changes, and that it was proposed that the golf courses would have those infrastructure changes potentially done by a bond election or bond projects. What we did after that discussion is started talking as staff in looking at ways that we could further increase revenues for the golf courses. One of the things that we discussed was implementing dynamic pricing. Before we could do that, and I'll talk about what that is in just a moment, the current code requires that the City Council set the fees. Staff is proposing that we make amendment to the code that would allow the city manager or his designee to be able to set fees for all of the different services that are offered by and through the golf courses. Dynamic pricing is a strategy that is being used currently in the hospitality and airline industry, and recently started to be used in the golf industry. The dynamic pricing uses different variables to set fees. They can range from weather, course conditions, demand, time of day, time of year, and so on. Based on these variables, the price of golf could go up or it could go down based on what those variables are telling us. During October, staff did a limited testing of the dynamic pricing. That was done solely on tee times available. It did not take into consideration some of the other things that I had mentioned. Those fees, depending on how full or how not full, if you will, our tee times were, fees went up or down $5 to $15. And what we found during that test period, if we compared rounds and revenue to 2015, that the revenue and number of rounds went up. At Twin Peaks, revenue went up a little over $15,000, and at U Creek, the revenue went up nearly 21%. So one of the things that we stepped back and looked at is, well, of course they went up. Weather was much better in 2016 than it was in 2017. So working with the city manager, and please jump in as you want, we did a significant amount of downloading of information from our Golf Now system, which is our point-of-sale system, and matched that on a 10-minute interval with the national...
It was a National Weather Service data collected at Vance Brand.
Right. And based on that, in this graph that you see, the blue line is the 2015 weather, and the red or the orange is the 2016 weather. Based on comparing those, we didn't find that there was a significant amount of difference. Generally, what the golf pros have said, if weather is above 55 degrees, our golfers will go out and golf. The only impact that impacts their going out is more so the wind. We also did comparisons to that. The wind for 2016 was actually higher than it was in 2015. And then this final slide that I'll share, the blue line is the available number of tee times that we had, again, during the month of October in 10-minute intervals. And we believe that the number of people taking advantage of the dynamic pricing increased compared to what we saw in this same graph that was done for 2015. So we believe, and again, this is just one step that we will be working on to increase revenues, but feel like the first step in increasing those is asking and requesting that you designate the ability to set fees for golf to the city manager. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Thanks, Jeff, for the presentation. What happens, I mean, year to year, does golf, do rounds played vary much?
They vary significantly sometimes depending on, again, how late the winter stays, how early it comes. On average, I would say our revenue is 2.5. There are some years it's as low as 2.3 million, but there are other years that it's over 2.6 million. So weather is a major factor in how successful we are in a given year.
So have you selected a baseline year or period of years to use for your comparison moving forward to know whether you're being successful or not?
We have not done that yet. What we've found is that some springs are better than other springs and some falls. So generally what we're looking at doing is taking the spring, and I believe 2013 was a really good spring, and the fall of 2014 was a really good fall, and somehow taking those two seasons and comparing it as we move forward.
And use that to basically determine whether you're successful or not with your dynamic pricing, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
One of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to model the revenues on in a lot of ways on a weekly basis as we're moving through this. As we were having conversations on this, one of the things that we found is that there are a significant number of tee times that go unused. And so the analogy I use is it's a stranded asset because we're just not generating money on those times. And the other dynamic that's really starting to come into play with the golf industry is really the advent of Golf Now and some of the other services that you can utilize where literally you can plug in your location and it gives you the best deal that exists in the area. And as we were moving through this, there were literally some times where it was cheaper to get a tee time at Colorado National than it was on some of our courses. And so what we're also finding is that a lot of folks are out there, that's what they're utilizing to find it. We talked to Sean, and a lot of his friends that are golfers, they literally wait for those alerts, and they use that as a deciding factor in terms of where they go play. And so what we really see is the golf industry is going through an evolution. The other piece that's really starting to come into play that we've talked about as recent as today is that what you also have is when you look at the number of golf courses, there are more golf courses. So what's happening is, but there are fewer players. And so you're having to really work in terms of how you're competitive in that environment. And one of the things that I will argue is that when we look at the competition that exists in golf, we've talked about the rate-setting piece related to next slide, but I actually think that the competition that exists in the golf industry with the number of golf courses that we have around us is actually probably the purest form of competition where we're competing with the private sector on a daily basis, going after a limited pool of players.
I think this is a great idea of how to leverage, stranded assets. I mean, dynamic pricing is used in toll lanes. It figures out, people decide, am I going to go to work early and pay cheaper tolls or, when you make your airline reservations, you go, geez, am I going to get down to the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning and get these cheap Frontier $29 flights, or am I going to sleep in until 11:30 and pay $150? I mean, it's brilliant because it fills seats basically. So I think it's a good.
In the other side of this, and be very clear, it also means that the rates can go
down.
Up.
Yeah. I
so
know.
If you're like me, and you want to go play golf on Father's Day with your family and you forget to book it, and you're waiting until the last minute and it's packed, I'm probably going to pay a much higher rate if I really want to do that. And so that's the point of this, is that it moves in both directions. I don't want folks to think that it's a one-directional movement. It really depends on the volume.
All right. Any other questions? No, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing on it. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing on ordinance 2016-82. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this? I guess seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-82. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move passage of ordinance 2016-82.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Let's vote. Oops, I thought I pushed it. Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Mayor, item 9H is ordinance 2016-83, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 14.04 of the Longmont Municipal Code on water rates, and Dale Rademacher, Director General Manager, Public Works and Natural Resources, is here at the podium.
I'll go by either name. Dale Rademacher, General Manager, Public Works and Natural Resources. This evening, before you tonight, City Council is a second reading ordinance to increase the water rates to partially fund the Windy Gap firming project. As you'll recall, the funding strategy that you're looking at is to do about $6 million of debt issuance by the City Council, with the balance coming out of cash funding, which implies a need to increase the rates. What I want to also inform you on tonight is that although the Windy Gap project, staff continues to believe that it is probably the best project that we can be in. It is a regional project that has been in the works literally for about 15 years. It is one that will provide very high quality water to the city of Longmont, and also one that geographically sits in a location that will serve our city very well. We do want you to also be aware of, however, that the project is still awaiting certain milestones to be achieved. One of those milestones is the issuance of the Army Corps of Engineers 404 permit. That permit has been in the process, if you will, for quite some time. Although we anticipated it being issued in 2016, it's now December 2016 and it has not yet been issued. We have been informed by the Northern Subdistrict that it's work that they're needing to do to modify their wetland mitigation plan. We're still hopeful that that 404 permit will be issued in 2017, hopefully in the first half of the year. And again, it is something that at the end of the day, the Corps of Engineers will decide when they're going to issue it and whether or not they put any terms on it. The second item that also needs to be done for this project is that the subdistrict needs to file a application in water court to amend the Windy Gap decree to incorporate all the additional agreements that have been entered into, primarily with the folks on the western slope, where they have been working very diligently to mitigate any impacts of this project and to come to agreement with many of the larger water agencies on the west slope. We are informed again by the subdistrict that they intend to file that amendment process in the first quarter of 2017. And as with any issue that you take to the water court, there's some question with regards to how quickly that will come to resolution. And we don't know that until the filing is made and we understand what kind of reaction we get. And then the last thing I want to make sure that both the public and the council is aware is that on December 5th of 2016, a little over a week ago, there was a ruling of the Colorado Supreme Court on a Trans-Mountain Diversion project in southern Colorado that came out of the Roaring Fork, Colorado Basin, if you will, into the Arkansas River. It was a decree that the city of Aurora was trying to go through a change case on. In that case, the Supreme Court did not agree with the water court ruling and essentially sent it back to the water court to be reconsidered. Our legal staff and our staff are taking a look at that, as is, of course, the northern staff, given that this is ultimately their project to go forward with. It's important, though, that we wanted you to be aware of that. At this point, we don't know if or to any extent that it may have on Windy Gap. There's certainly a lot of differences between those two situations in Windy Gap, but obviously they're both Trans-Mountain Diversion projects. So with that, we wanted to just make sure that the council was aware of those current issues before you take action tonight. And of course, if you have any questions, we'll try to answer those.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Dale, this 404 permit, can we do anything at Windy Gap before we get that 404 permit from the engineers, Army Corps of Engineers?
Mayor Combs and Councilmember Peck, we can continue to move the project forward. So in other words, we can go into the design phase, but you cannot go to construction. And you certainly can't operate a project absent a 404 permit. So I don't believe you can, the way to think about it is you can't start moving dirt until you've got all your permits in place. Okay. But you can move forward on design, which is the stage that the project's currently in.
Thank you.
Well, I guess before I open it up to the public hearing, my thoughts are, compared to construction, design doesn't cost, design's always expensive, but it's small compared to construction. So it can continue on that. I just feel a little bit, personally, a little bit uncomfortable to, increase people's water rates when we don't know if the 404 permit's going to happen 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I think there's plenty of time if the design keeps going forward and the project keeps going forward and that 404 permit is still delayed by 3 or 6 months. It seems like that, to me, would be the most appropriate time to increase water rates. I still think we made the right decision for our future on the 10,000 foot level. And we can always debate which was the best financing. Personally, I really thought we were going to be bond financing. I thought for sure that's what the surveys were going to be telling us, but they didn't tell us that. It's kind of a mixed bag. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. So I've had the privilege of serving on the Windy Gap Board with Ken Hewson. It's an interesting, actually it's not an interesting, it's a god-awful boring board. But some things that, and my stomach always cringes when I hear people like Mr. Belmont, you're not the only one, I'm not singling you out, but people are concerned about the amount of acre feet that we're getting. My stomach twists further when I hear from members of our community, such as this good gentleman here, who's obviously concerned about his fixed income covering his increasing costs. And as an elected official, as a civil servant, obviously I wish that we didn't have to increase rates. But just to remind everybody, so Windy Gap, I just want to list off the cities that are participating. We've got Broomfield, Weld County, Erie, Evans, Greeley, Fort Lupton, Lafayette, Little Thompson Water District, Louisville, Loveland, Midland Park Water Conservation District, Platte River Power Authority, which includes Fort Collins, and Longmont. So, say again? Yeah, Loveland, if I didn't mention Loveland. So there are a lot of government municipalities that are basically building a huge reservoir of 90,000 acre feet. And City Council took a vote. We decided to go for 10,000. 6,000 wasn't the minimum that we needed. 6,000 was one end of the range. It's a queuing problem, meaning if you have to move, for example, so many people through a line and you know that there's a minimum, that you're going to have in line and there's a maximum, you need to plan for the maximum. We're not planning for the maximum. That was 12,000 acre feet. We only did 10,000. And if we didn't do the project, it would be just like someone previously, 30 or 40 or 50 years ago saying, well, we live here now. We don't need a plan for the future, so we're going to write it off in order to keep our rates low. So I kind of look at it as they paid it forward. We're paying it forward for the people who live here later, like my children, people who move here, etc. And so what I heard from Mr. Rademacher was that we've got some very limited exposure as a result of a Supreme Court case that came out. I also heard that we've got the Army Corps of Engineers waiting to issue the 404 permit, which means that we can't proceed forward without it. My understanding is also, we were told both before and in meeting that we need to, it's not necessary to increase rates now in order to meet our obligation should we continue forward with the Windy Gap project. And so I guess what I think we should do, originally I was like, let's just pull the trigger and go for it. Let's just go for it. That made sense when I first heard it. There's some benefit in doing that, but if we don't need to increase rates right now, we could easily wait till we actually get the 404 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. And so I guess I'd move that we table this vote until we get the permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, or the 404 permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. It'll save people on water rates currently, but it will allow us to still participate in the Windy Gap project at the agreed upon allotment.
Can we still have the public hearing on? Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and still have the public hearing before we.
If we move to table it,
yeah.
I don't think we. There's no second, though.
Well, yes.
Hearing's been published.
Yeah, it's been published. We still have to have it.
Second.
Okay.
But we still have to have a public hearing.
Okay. Councilmember Christensen.
I would support Councilman Bagley on this. I think given what we heard tonight about the Colorado Supreme Court ruling and the uncertainty about that and the general uncertainty afoot all over, but also the fact that we don't have the 404 permit issued yet, it would, and therefore we can't bond it. We can't send it out for bond without that. So once we have that, we could proceed along with it. And so I would vote in support of this.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you. First of all, it's my understanding that regardless of the amount of acre feet that we sign on for, we are going to participate in Windy Gap. If we decided on 6,000, we would be participating in Windy Gap. To participate or not participate is not the option. The discussion is about to what extent do we participate. So I took the staff's recommendation that we don't need to participate at the 10,000 acre level to begin with, but knowing that we have future to look at, my choice was to go for the middle ground of 8,000. But I do agree that we shouldn't make a decision on this until we get the Army Corps of Engineers giving us the permit to move forward, because we don't have a project if they don't permit it. But I would also like to put out that we bring back the discussion about financing, how we finance it, and make that another discussion, taking into consideration that I think that we're using public funds to do this. And public funds, from my perspective, should be a vote of the people. So I am asking that we bring, as long as we're tabling this, let's bring back the discussion of how we finance it.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Just point of clarification is the motion to delay considering the rate increase until the 404 is received.
Right. Yes.
Table the vote till then. And is that sufficient to be time certain, Mr. May? Is that sufficient to be time certain on tabling a motion?
The motion to table is, I think that's a proper motion.
I mean, otherwise, if we don't have a date certain to bring it back, or that's the way I interpreted the council rules of procedure on tabling a motion.
You could table it to a date certain. You can make it conditional, which Councilmember Bagley did.
Just was trying to clarify it, because you've already, and then it would only have to come back for a second reading?
Correct. We table it at this point in time.
Right.
Okay.
Just
getting some clarification out there.
Okay. So my question is, yeah, I think we should still have the public hearing tonight because it's been noticed. And so does everybody like to speak at this time? Well, I don't know if you can speak since you spoke at public.
Oh, what the heck?
Oh, what the heck?
What the heck? Excuse me, Mayor Coombs, council members. First, I want to appreciate and thank you for obviously the long and hard work that's been done, not only by you all, but the city staff. Councilmember Bagley, thank you. I know that's tedious. And I also, Councilmember Peck, it's obvious, and all of us understand that this is a very necessary thing. And I just want to also say thank you for graciously providing for a hearing for the marijuana issue, the marijuana sales issue. That was a big issue to the city, to a lot of people. Also having agreed to and are currently planning for a public forum on oil and gas. So
this hearing is supposed to be just on this item.
I'm about to get to that.
Okay.
That shows that you're willing to be transparent and have a spirit of communication and education around major issues in the city, of which this is. Those two previous ones I mentioned were actually, or could have been, revenue generators for the city. This is obviously an incredible cost to the city. Thus, even more so calling for the need for education of the public, involvement of the public, dialogue about these matters. So, again, I just want to urge you in that context to seriously consider having some, at least one educational and dialogue forum about this matter of volume that we are going to, some of the alternatives to that. What happens if there's a major drought? We put all our eggs in one basket. The water's coming from the Colorado River, and if there ain't no water in the Colorado River, there ain't going to be no water in our reserve, or as much as we hoped there would. So we might want to diversify. There's a lot of issues. I don't mean to get into the technicalities. I'm just saying the point of discussion to involve the people that are going to essentially pay for this makes all the sense in the world. So educate, convince your public that the 10,000 is the right number. You owe it to your public to convince them, to convince me. I'm part of the public. Thank you all so much for all that you do and for listening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak on this ordinance? Okay, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing on ordinance 2016-83. So now we have a motion to table this motion. It's been seconded. Let's vote on that. All right, that passes 7-0. City Manager.
So there was a discussion about other alternatives. Any council direction on how to, if you want to proceed on that or if not. So.
Bring it back after the 404. Bring it back after the 404.
On the financing piece, the other look at the financing.
Discuss the financing after the 404 permit.
I just need council direction. So after.
Talk about it.
Yeah, Councilmember Moore.
So there's a motion that's been seconded on the current ordinance, and that's what I tried to make clear in my comments. So in my mind, we're bringing it back for second reading to either approve or not. And so the public forum is not, well, the public forum is a different issue, but the financing discussion has been had.
Right. That's Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. But if something changes, meaning that if we need to act before the 404, please let us know so then we can bring it to a new vote and retable it. Duh,
exactly.
Right? Okay, all right.
All right. Why don't we take a break for 10 minutes before we... seats. So now we're at items pulled from consent. And Councilmember Bagley, you pulled it, so. Councilmember Bagley. Oh, we need a clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. We'll wait for the clerk.
There's Dawn.
Mayor, are we moving on to items removed from consent agenda?
Yes.
Item 8E, Resolution 2016-123, a resolution of the Longmont City Council to reaffirm our constitutional rights and our community values.
All right. Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I dreaded this topic. And the reason I wanted it pulled is because I had some thoughts. And it would be really easy just to leave it on the consent agenda and pass it. And but I've got some concerns. And before I say what I'm going to say, that's my family. I have probably, if you wanted to judge skin color, even though I'm a Caucasian male, my wife is a very, very dark immigrant from Mexico. I've got a child biologically mine who is a brown-skinned Latina, and I've got 3 beautiful adopted boys, first-generation immigrants from Mexico. And so in my home, we speak English and Spanish. I respect my wife's culture. She respects my culture. We have a Bagley culture, which I think is quite American. But I've got some concerns about the ordinance, and I'm sorry, the resolution. And first of all, Councilmember Christensen, I know that this ordinance or this resolution is coming from a good place in your heart. You are a very kind person. I respect your not only your political beliefs, but your personality and your kindness and your empathy, and so I don't fault you at all for bringing forth this resolution, and I know where it comes from. I don't think it's politically motivated. I don't think it's. I don't think there's anything vile or politically motivated at all behind it. But I do think the resolution is a little vague, meaning that, for example, for the last 2 years, I have an office on Main Street, 15th and Main. And I will see 2 gentlemen walk down Main Street, and it was reported in the paper, but they'll carry an American flag, a Confederate flag, and AR-15s or AK-47s. I haven't gotten close enough to check it out. But that is their constitutional right to open carry in the city of Longmont. So Section 1, to affirm our constitutional rights and the rights granted by amendments to the Constitution. I don't feel comfortable saying that their expression of their rights make me feel all that welcoming. I also think that while I want to, I mean, as far as confirming our community values as a safe, healthy, respectful, and welcoming community, I remember at my 10th wedding anniversary, I brought up at Christmas that Yvonne and I were planning on renewing our vows. And I remember my dad just jumped down my throat. How dare you even consider it? I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you've already promised. You know, you gave your word once, and by golly, why do you need to renew anything? And so I kind of look at this. I mean, I was a Cub Scout and recited my commitment to, you know, the Scout oath, the Scout law. When I was sworn in as an attorney, I did the same thing. When I was sworn in and took an oath as a council member, I did it again. Unfortunately, and even you hear it in the comments, at the dais, if you looked at the comment section on Facebook or at times on the Times Call website, rightly or wrongly, people are viewing this resolution as a referendum as to why half of our country voted for Donald Trump. And I didn't vote for Donald Trump. On the contrary, I went down to the Boulder County Democrats and made calls for Hillary Clinton. I didn't like the guy that much. But nevertheless, he won. And the people I know who voted for Donald Trump are not racist, at least the ones that I know. They don't instill fear in me, nor in my minority family. I don't view them as bullies. I don't view them as inciting violence or bigotry or threats. And I'm not aware, in talking with the police department, of anywhere in our city where we have seen that or heard that, other than anecdotally. So personally, yes, I am all for inclusivity. I get that. But what I'm not for is continuing to you know, I think that this, just talking about this, even though it feels good to say, you know, in general, we support constitutional rights and we accept everybody. Well, I mean, this goes for sexually violent offenders that move back into our community after they hit parole. It goes for the Ku Klux Klan. You know, they have a right to march down Main Street. All things that fall within this resolution that I don't feel comfortable saying I accept. So, for a lot of reasons, I just think it's redundant. And part of me said, I'm just not going to vote. I'm just not even going to vote on it. But, you know, I also feel like I have an obligation pursuant to charter to vote. So I'm not going to support it for those reasons, although I support everything it stands for on its fundamental level, which is I personally, and I believe this council, and I believe this city, does not support bullying, violence, or bigotry. And if you want to bring this ordinance back in a year, I would vote for it in a heartbeat. But just not tonight.
Councilmember Christensen. Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. First of all, a resolution is not a law. It's not really enforceable. And resolutions are made all the time by lawmakers. And they're used when passage of a law is unfeasible sometimes. For example, illicit drug use is against the law by state and federal law, but lawmakers are always frequently passing resolutions to decry drug use, to re-emphasize to their populations, to their residents, that we stand behind this and we just want to re-emphasize it. To me, that's all this resolution is doing. To reaffirm things, there are a lot of people who've told me, why do I have to pledge allegiance to the flag all the time? I pledge allegiance to it. I am an American. I love the flag, but every meeting I go to, we stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag again and again and again. That's like saying your vows again and again and again. It's to reaffirm. It's to let people out there know that your electors stand behind the law and will reaffirm it, will protect you. Stan Garnett has gone, our attorney has gone around to every city in Boulder County and have huge, huge audiences because the fear within those cities is real and it's palpable, and he is reaffirming that we are here for you and we will protect you and you don't need to have any fear. That's what leaders are supposed to do, and we are leaders. We've had a leader for 18 months who's been scaring people, and we are just reaffirming the fact we are here as leaders to stand behind the laws that are already constitutional laws. And I think it's a good thing. I think we should always be telling people that. So I will vote for this. I think it's fine.
Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I know that this came from Polly's heart, and I know she doesn't mean it as a partisan statement, but that's what it's perceived as. Instead of bringing our community together, it's reaffirmed that big schism that America has seen during this election cycle. I also believe that we've already sworn to uphold our Constitution and that we are a very inclusive community that reaches out at every turn to remain that way. Our belonging revolution that we have, that we've all participated in, can serve as a model for other communities, and that's what we ought to be talking about. For almost 250 years, America has endured because of its unique constitution and system of government. It will continue despite the fears that drive the need on the part of some for a resolution such as this. We are unlikely, no matter how well the resolution is written, to improve on the efficacy of the U.S. Constitution, the state, federal, and local laws we already have on the books. If I thought for 1 minute this resolution would make any difference in those who have hatred and bigotry in their heart, I'd vote for it. But I don't believe that's the case. So I will not be voting for the resolution, but I do appreciate your thoughts. I really do.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Trying to save my voice. It was mentioned earlier that pretty much this resolution is regarding the incoming president by a previous council member. I question whether or not had the Democratic nominee, and here we are getting into partisan politics, something that this council has really shied away from throughout my tenure and prior to my tenure on council. Because what happens is we get people coming in, we want a resolution on the war in Iraq, we want a resolution on Benghazi, we want a resolution on emails, we want a resolution, I don't want this council and the business that we do become like Boulder. They spend 3 hours on public comment on a resolution whether to call for the war crimes against a president and a vice president. That's how what I see this is doing. It's everything that I see in here. I swore to do that. I swore to protect the Constitution of the United States, Colorado, and the Charter of Longmont. But if I vote against this, am I a bigot? Will I be threatened? Probably. We've gotten emails. We've all gotten emails. Council member such and such, you didn't vote this way, blah, blah, blah. I've been called many things at that dais by many of people. Said I'm on the take, pretty much bullying me here at council and other council members. I'm not just saying, past council members that aren't here. And I've stopped every single one of them. I think this is, as other council members have said, is prolonging this divisiveness. You want to make something of this? If I thought this would do something, I'd vote for it. But actions are, by me going out and being in the community and doing, whether it's service projects or working for a non-for-profit or helping a non-for-profit, what have you. Those actions can be quantified. This is a knee-jerk reaction to an election. The sun came up the next day, the world kept spinning. And whether you voted for the Republican nominee or the Democratic nominee, and I'll tell you, I didn't vote for either one of them. The first time since I was able to vote, I did not vote for a presidential candidate. Because you know what? They didn't deserve my vote. Because on both sides, the mudslinging was terrible. This, what I've seen so far, since this has been introduced, is mudslinging. Not from members of council, not from Councilmember Christensen who proposed it, but from people in the community who are, what's wrong with Longmont? Are we really this bad that we have to do this resolution? I don't believe so. I feel to see the value of it, except for, as we got an email from one resident, well, a city in California did one. Boulder's doing one. You know what? A lot of people do a lot of councils do a lot of things that I agree with and I disagree with. This one, again, we're taking time from the business of the city of Longmont instead of we're looking at national politics. And that's how this, I believe, came about.
You know, we all see the world through our own lens, our own life experiences. And I really do value both Councilmember Christensen and Bagley and all of our council members. And, I don't care how anybody votes on this. My heart and soul says, I'm going to support this. And I think it's good that we're having these discussions. It's a good thing. And that's one positive thing that comes out of resolutions is people talk about it. And I think that's healing. So that's the reason why I'm going to vote for it. And I would vote for this if Hillary would say, I was going to ship 6 million illegal immigrants across the border the first day of her presidency. I would still vote for it. And so it has nothing to do with R's or D's. That's not the issue here. And, I really do value everybody's points of view because I think we all have valid points of view. And Councilmember Bagley is very articulate, and he's got a wonderful family. He's got a warm heart. I love you guys to death, and it's like that's what I like about this council. We can disagree, but we leave here and we still respect each other's. And I think that's what this community needs to do is, have these discussions, but still respect each other's points of view. It doesn't matter. We don't always have to agree with everybody all the time, but as long as you listen. When I was out 8 years ago seeing President Obama get inaugurated, after the inauguration, there was this black woman with 2 small children, and she was off to the side. She was just crying, and I thought she was hurt, so I ran up to her, and I said, ma'am, can I help you? Are you hurt? Did you need anything? And she just said, no, this is like the happiest day of my life. And she explained what that day meant for her and her 2 children. And, at that point I realized I'll never know what it's like to be a black person in this country, or, because I haven't lived in their skin. But it's kind of eye-opening when someone that's a complete stranger is going to share their most deepest, closest feelings with you for about 15 minutes, and that's how I see these resolutions. It gets people to talk about things. It doesn't change the laws. It's not enforceable, but I'm going to support it. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Well, this is a tough one for me. In a lot of ways, I agree with Councilman Bagley and think that this is really not really going to do anything. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of members in our community that this will be a significant, it'll make them feel better about Longmont, and that they know that the city council is going to support them. And we can imply it or we can say it. And I think this is a way we can just say we are going to say that what we think is, and we're going to support everybody in the community, regardless of their views. And I don't see any harm. I don't really see that this is going to be something that's going to change anybody's views. But I do see it as an important statement that says, for those people that are uncomfortable, that yes, we're here to ask you to be part of our community too, and be all-inclusive. So that's really all we're saying here, and I'm going to support it.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I was only going to say something because I know you wanted to go last.
Okay.
Right. There is one huge downside to this resolution, and that is that tomorrow's paper is going to speak to those who voted for Trump, and they're going to look at 4 of us saying, oh, look at you guys playing politics. Look at you guys not being able to accept the fact that you guys lost, and that you guys are assuming that we're racist, and how dare you. And then the other half of the community is going to look at 3 of us who are going to assume, wrongfully, We refuse to stand up to bullying, threats, violence, and bigotry. And so it just sucks. Just pointing that out, that it sucks.
Councilmember Christensen.
Okay, so I guess we've had all the comments from City Council now. Well, I am glad that Mr. Justice came, and I appreciate his views. Had he told me about the swastikas, I would have gotten involved. So I'm sorry you didn't tell me about that, but it isn't, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you came to speak. I can guarantee you, however, that I don't do silly political stunts. That's not what I do. I represent the people of Longmont at large. And a resolution is a statement of policy. It's our job as City Council to do policy and to say that our policy is that we will not allow our constitutional rights to be deteriorated even further. And we will not allow the intimidation of blacks, Latinos, women, LGBT people, the elderly, the disabled, Jews, Muslims, the poor, pretty much everybody but the few rich white guys in town. You know, none of this doesn't include most of us. So this is not a partisan statement. I have said that repeatedly. It is not a partisan statement. 3 members of council have chosen to view it that way, and it is not. People who think that it has to be much more detailed, I purposely crafted it so I didn't think anyone could possibly disagree. It is a statement in support of the people of Longmont that we have the right to live here with comfort and security. My father came to this country because he was Danish, and he lived where he was treated like dirt and called vermin. And he came here because this was a place he could start all over again, and he could be treated well, and eventually he was, although many, many times he was treated as is typical of an immigrant, like he was a fool because he had a funny accent. And so my experience is that I take great offense at people being treated like dirt just because of the color of their skin, their religion, any reason. I want everybody to be treated like an individual. That's what this country has always been about. If you look at our Constitution, it's Amendment 1 says, and what I'm pointing out is that our Constitution was also simple. That gave freedom to interpret things. However, the First Amendment promises us that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Think of how many things that actually includes. And think of how our rights have been slowly eaten away. We have people intending to bring back seditious libel that will not only cause us to have financial ruin, but also classify us as a traitor. Think about that. We have a senator from Washington who promises to have people who protest classified as economic terrorists. That will not only, and anyone who contributes to a group that protests to be classified as economic terrorists. If that passes, well, we really don't have any more free rights, do we? Because we will be just like Russia. We will have no ability to speak because we'll be too afraid to speak. That's what I'm talking about. That's what Mr. Lee said, that we, little by little, these things get eaten away. And little by little, when we put up with someone being abused, then we allow everyone to be abused eventually. You know, little by little, when we don't stand up for each other, everybody has, none of us have any rights. If the people who came to the police chief, Chief Butler, who's along with Dan Benavides, who has done a lot for walking around the neighborhoods, which we've all participated in. And that's a very good thing, as Councilman Finley said, because that's how you actually get to talk to the people of Longmont. He went to Casa de la Esperanza because he was worried about people. And he heard numerous cases of people being treated badly. When the newspaper says that an officer said, we have no data about this. Well, of course we have no data because that takes time to accumulate and it requires people to actually report these things. When you are humiliated and humiliated in front of your children by being denied service and being treated badly, you don't report it to anyone. You go home and feel both ashamed and humiliated and enraged, but you don't report it. So it's not part of anybody's data. Stan Garnett appeared in the theater, the Stewart Auditorium, and all over the county because he knows he's getting reports of people being treated badly. We have several reports here, and I've heard many more too, both in city government and in private offices. And we're being very naive if we think that very bad things cannot happen in this country. And this is just the beginning if we allow ourselves to put up with it. So this is just a simple statement of policy saying we won't put up with this. Because eventually when people put up with words and normalizing hate speech, we have people like Dylan Roof who listen to the constant 24/7 blatherings of the KKK and the Nazi skinheads and Breitbart News, and slaughtered 9 black parishioners who were praying. That's where putting up with this kind of stuff leads to. Or imprisoning Japanese, millions of Japanese during the Second World War. We can't let it get started. We have to stand up for our neighbors. That's all this is about.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Stan Garnett, great guy, but he's an elected official who's a Democrat. I was at the CASA. I was also at those meetings. I walk around. Literally, I have, just to be clear, I have a sample set of one where I constantly walk around with speaking Spanish all the time in public with brown people. And I have not seen it. And so I just want, and I wasn't going to say anything, but to be clear, me voting against this doesn't endorse the KKK. It doesn't endorse hate in our community. It doesn't endorse, swastikas or car scratches saying Jew with the Star of David. That is not it. I just want to be perfectly clear that that's not why I'm voting against this.
Okay, it looks like our discussion's done. Does someone want to make a motion to? Councilmember Christensen.
Okay, I guess I better move this resolution. I would move that we pass resolution R2016-123.
All right, do we have a second? All right, let's vote. And it passes 4-3 with Councilmember Bagley, Councilmember Santos, and Councilmember Finley dissenting.
Mayor, item 11A on general business was removed, as noted at the beginning of the meeting. So item 11B is the proposed or draft 2017 City Council retreat agenda and location. Sandy Cedar.
Mayor Coombs, members of council, Sandy Cedar, Assistant City Manager, here to talk about your retreat for 2017. You may remember that you chose Friday, February 24th as the day, and general issues of concern, really kind of the bigger issues of concern, critical needs of our community as the general topic. We just wanted to confirm that with you. This is not a fleshed out agenda, but we just kind of threw in some general topics of things that we would assume we would discuss, and we would add some meat to this as we go. But we just wanted to do a check-in with you to ensure that this is the correct direction. So if you take a look at the agenda, essentially we start with just grounding ourselves in Envision Longmont and what that meant and what that means for us moving forward. And then really continuing our conversation from the last retreat about how do we revision what this looks like? What does this mean when we are talking about community involvement in a facilitated way as opposed to the government solves everything for everyone? Because we recognize that's not sustainable. There's not enough resources for that. And the problems are big, and they're all of our problems. And so then we would talk a little bit about the data that we have, the results of the homeless assessment, the results of the human services assessment, and also probably bring in some of the aspects of the mental health conversations, give some of the results from our poverty work, from the work that we've been doing around the Circles program, and then really talk about, okay, so now what? How do we move forward as a community? How do we start to pull together so that we can take these issues in a different direction for the future of our community? So with that being said, the two questions on the table are, is this the right direction generally? That's number one. And number two, where do you guys want to go?
Okay.
What location would you?
Councilmember Christensen? Oh, Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I guess I'm kind of in a quandary here, is that I'd like to see more discussion about how do we move our economic base forward to where we can get a better source of reliable future city revenue out 5 to 10 years versus, what we're seeing in the next, we already kind of know what the next 4 or 5 years, but beyond that, where we are going with that. And I don't know what that entails. That's just a kind of a brain sort of whatever you want to call it. But because we spend a lot of time on, like Envision, we've spent a lot of time going through that and the community input and how we went around that. We spend a lot of time on human services and homelessness. Well, not so much homelessness, but affordable housing has been a big topic over the past few years. I like the engagement piece, but I still think we need to start to think about what our longer-term economic outlook and our plan would look like.
You will notice that the Envision Longmont piece is pretty small. It's just really grounding everybody in where we were. So we're not going back through anything or having additional conversation just to kind of get it started. We recognize how much work the council has already put into Envision Longmont.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. No, grounding us back into an Envision is probably very important to be able to make at a retreat, to see whether it's economic development. Do we bring in the LEDP? Do we bring in the DDA potentially to talk about things that are going on in downtown or primary employers in Longmont and other potential revenue generating sources? As far as location, I thought the best location was probably at the museum. It's a great newer facility that we have. That study room is quite large. It can accommodate a lot of people, and it's centrally located in town. So, other than that, the only questions I had were not really questions, but the National League of Cities focus. They have a very broad range of topics. I'm more inclined to look at Longmont now in the next 25 years, which Envision does. But if we could potentially bring in, like I said, Jessica and Kimberly and them and the boards, perhaps we can brainstorm and find some different ways of new revenue generating possibilities.
It sounds like both of you at this point are still interested in having the conversations around a new way of facilitating neighborhoods as well as adding the economic development piece, yes?
Right.
Councilmember Peck.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Actually, I agree with Councilman Moore and Councilman Santos, but I would like to see us dive deeper and take Envision Longmont, the sustainability plan, an economic future, and actually have council use those tools and come up with a vision that they want for the city. This is what I see other cities doing when they plan things. When they plan the way they want their city to look. To me, Envision Longmont's sustainability plan are tools for us to use to have a vision of what we want the city to look like, instead of taking everything as one-off projects. How do we link it all together so that we can move forward with a plan that City Council wants using those tools? So bringing in LEDP and LDDDA is a great idea. But I would like that discussion to be among us as well as what do we think a city should look like? Where do we want it to go?
And certainly all of these topics are part of the guiding principles of Envision Longmont, so grounding it there makes lots of sense.
And I agree that the museum is a great place.
Excellent.
Councilmember Christensen.
Yeah, I agree with all of these, everything said so far about this issue. And I do think our economic development is really important. I think it might be useful also to get somebody in to speak on this from a regional basis, and because, this isn't just Longmont. People come in from outside of Longmont to work here, and people from Longmont leave. And it really is a regional issue and maybe a statewide issue. So if we could get somebody to also speak a little bit about regional economic development or statewide regional development, that would be good.
Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. The two things I hear from my constituents that they would like to see us address are homelessness. They don't want to go to the parks anymore. They're afraid to go to the parks. They're afraid to walk their dogs to the park or take their kids there because of the homeless people. And the smell of folks growing marijuana, some of their neighbors growing marijuana. It would be nice to know if there's anything we can legally do to regulate those activities, because those are the things I hear from my constituents, and I think that's what we're here to represent. Although I like all the other ideas as well, and I think the museum is a great place.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Councilmember Bagley, you haven't chimed in?
Go ahead.
Okay. It'd also be a good idea to know where we are as far as what are the takeaways from Advanced Longmont.
Sean just whispered to me, and we could also reground in Advanced Longmont as well.
That would
make a lot of
seeing
sense.
some sort of breakout of where we're achieving some of those goals, where we're not achieving some of those goals, so we can actually focus in, and not just with Envision Longmont should be the guiding document. All the other master plans, including the sustainability plan, are keys to that cog. So I want to make sure that we're not taking one plan over other plans as well. They all have to be incorporated into the overall well-being of the city.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I guess what I'd like to see out of our retreat is the opportunity to hang out with my council members and have fun. I mean, team building. I think that I also would like. I guess the one thing that not frustrates me, very little frustrates me, to tell you the truth, with this group or city staff, but I guess I'd like to know what's coming up. I guess I'd like to see a broad brush of, all right, city council, we're city staff, and this is what we got on the plate coming up. In a couple months we're going to be dealing with this, and in 6 months we're going to be dealing with this, and we got this coming up and this coming up, and we could bring up this, but not if you don't want to. So I guess I'd want to spend a couple of hours just hearing. I mean, city manager and the mayor set the agendas, but I guess I would like to know what I guess a lot of times at city council, we read the packet, and it's kind of myopia, but I'd like to be, if I had a nickel for every time I go, so when are we going to do this? You go, oh, it's coming up in 2 months. or, oh, we plan on bringing it back. It just would be nice to see, just step back and just see the canvas one time. And just that way, just know where we're headed. And then that way, we could maybe talk about what we do or do not want on. Or we could say, hey, I thought we were going to bring that back up. What happened to that? And we can take a vote if we want to talk about it. Or we could say, yeah, do we really want to bring that up? Because I don't want to deal with that. So that's those are my thoughts. And food. Good food.
Yeah, Greens Point Catering. Greens Point.
Greens Point Catering and the museum?
Museum.
Liking the museum? Yeah. Very good.
The Callahan House, that was cool.
You want to do a council dinner that evening?
Is it on a Friday?
Not if we're,
We'll make it. If we're together and we have the time.
okay. Not if we spent the whole day together.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Really?
After 8 hours, I'm done.
Mayor Coombs, Mayor Pro Tem. The other thing that, so what that harkens for me is that we do provide our accomplishments from the last year, which we used to do kind of in some, we used to do some fun kind of trivia, team building things. But we also include our work plans from the next year, and we have not necessarily done either, trivia or presentations about what that looks like. And so we'll incorporate some things like that. It may not be in 3 months this is going to happen, although we are committed to emailing you out advanced agendas, but at least you can see what's on each of our work plans in the next year.
That wouldn't be
Would
a
that
close
work?
to dinner if we could bring our families.
That's always the key.
You will.
And we'd pay for it, of course, but.
Councilmember Law. So Sandy, could you read back the ideas we have so far?
Yes. So what I heard was that in general, the concept of really attacking some of these big issues as a community makes sense. But in addition to talking about homelessness and maybe the results of the human services assessment, also starting again with Envision Longmont, talking a little bit about just very briefly, just a reminder about what the big picture vision is, and then working into an economic base forward, inviting LEDP, LDDA, some regional folks, maybe state, regrounding in Advanced Longmont as the tool that accompanies that. Also making sure that we're discussing the sustainability plan as part of that Envision Longmont moving forward as well. Then the homelessness piece, human services, not sure where marijuana fit into that. I think I maybe lost that. I just wrote down marijuana. Making sure that we wrap it up talking about facilitated leadership as the model and doing team building and the work plan, making sure we talk about the work plan.
All right, it sounds like we can get that done in a week.
That sound? I think
So,
we can.
no, literally, really, if we really want to tackle at least a piece of all of those, I think we're going to need more than a day.
You could certainly do what we can do in a day, and then you could decide if you wanted to have another follow-up to that. Some of these pieces could be done pretty quickly. Certainly the work plan, the accomplishments, some of the team building stuff can be in between. It seems to me like there are two big segments, one on economic development, one on homelessness and social issues in the community right now, mental health issues, substance abuse, homelessness, poverty. It seems to me like there's two big breakouts to that.
Okay.
If that works for you all, then we'll develop something better around that. And I still don't know where marijuana
All right.
fits.
All right.
Those are the problems I hear. She just threw that out.
Does that work? We'll do it at the museum. We'll have Greens Point cater it. We can be gluten-free and vegan.
Councilmember Bagley.
Thank you, Mayor. And the reason I mentioned team building, it's not. I guess when I say team building, it's an excuse to socialize. Like tonight's discussion. I know Polly's heart. I know Polly. Polly knows me. It allows for a more cordial, friendly, loving council rather than, So just don't do the superficial stuff. I guess it'd just be. You've done a good job. Do it again.
We're not going to do a ropes course together.
We always talk about a ropes course.
Councilmember Santos.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. Well, in the past, we did have a two-day retreat. So I'm not opposed to having to do that. There's some large topics and all that, and we might have to do that.
It's certainly up to you all. If you'd like to do that, we could certainly do that, or we could put together a more detailed agenda and bring it back again. We have a little time. Yeah, we chunk it out.
Councilmember Christensen.
I would just request no more personality tests. The only ones who came out well on that were Harold and Bobby King and I. Just no more tests.
No more tests. Okay.
I found out I was nuts. I've been happy ever since.
That's scary. I was the same personality type as you. All right.
Explained a
So
lot.
we'll put a little more meat on this bones, and we'll bring it back to you and make a recommendation as to whether it should be 2-day. We'll go ahead and reserve the museum in the meantime and
Okay.
get things kind of moving that way.
Okay, now it's time for the next segment.
Oh, you're going to pull Valerie.
Yeah, board and commissions.
We're missing some. Yeah, we don't have golf course.
So Mayor and Council, Don Quintana, Deputy City Clerk. I'm here in Valerie's place to walk you through board and commission appointments. As Councilmember Bagley noted, you don't have ballots for every single board because some of them we suppose may not require a vote as there's only one person for 3 or 4 positions, so maybe that would just be a motion.
Okay.
So for that reason, there aren't ballots for every single one, and we can walk through these. So the clerk's office did recruitment for about 2 months, closed November 1st. We received 29 applications, but as you'll note, there are quite a few vacancies that will need to be re-advertised. So that said, if you'd like to start with the Airport Advisory Board is the first one on your list in the council communication. We have 3 regular member terms and 1 unexpired regular member term and 2 applicants.
Councilmember Santos?
Mayor, I just like to make a motion if I can.
Sure.
I would move to appoint Melinda Jordan to a regular term ending in 19 and then reopen advertisements for the Airport Advisory Board.
Okay.
Is there a
It's been
second?
motion. Has anybody got a second? All right. Let's,
We'll have to do the vote the old-fashioned way.
yeah, okay.
If you're ready
Let's
to vote,
That's
just when you're
that
ready.
motion has been seconded. Let's vote. All in favor, raise their hand. Okay. Opposed?
We're voting for one, right?
Yeah, we don't have to make the motion again to do Melinda. And vote Melinda.
I'm sorry?
Want to make the motion again and put Melinda?
Yeah, yeah. For the 3?
2.
Do you have blank sheets at your?
Really?
Was that Jeff's pen? You still want Jeff's pen?
It's my pen. Is it Jeff? Oh, yeah, it is Jeff's pen. It's a neat pen.
It is an awesome pen.
Yes.
Jordan cried because he wanted to get away.
It says Jeff Moore.
Who voted how? Yeah, okay.
Back when he doesn't hear him.
All right, so Councilmember Finley voted for Melinda Jordan. Councilmember Peck voted for Melinda Jordan. Councilmember Santos voted for Melinda Jordan. Councilmember Coombs voted for
Got busted.
Melinda Jordan and Dale Van Zant. Councilmember Bagley voted for Melinda Jordan and Dale Van Zant. Councilmember Moore voted for Melinda Jordan and Dale Van Zant. And Councilmember Christensen also voted for Melinda Moore and Dale Van Zant. So if we did this correctly, then both Melinda and Dale would each fill 2 of the 3 open regular member terms ending in 2019? Is that accurate? Did I interpret that correctly? We still have 1 vacancy for a regular member term and 1 for an unexpired term?
What are we at? Which one?
Airport Advisory Board.
Airport, we're still in airport. That was airport.
Well, there's nobody else. What are we doing? I'm slow. I'm sorry.
Right, now we're moving on.
Okay,
I
all
just
right,
want to
okay.
make sure that I understood your direction clearly, that,
all right.
and by your vote, both of those people will serve regular terms, and we'll re-advertise the other 2. Moving on to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals. No ballots for this one. There's 1 term and 1 applicant, 1 unexpired alternate member.
Councilmember Bagley?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move that we appoint Ton Willerman to the one unexpired alternate member term ending June 30th, 2019 for the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
Okay, it's been moved to second. All in favor?
I'm sorry, all in favor? Okay.
So,
Thank you. The next one is the Board of Environmental Affairs. We have one unexpired member term ending June 30th, 2019, and we have two applicants, Tim Brass and Amy Schmidt. I believe, do you have ballots for this one?
yeah, we do.
Very good.
My guess. Little cow's puppet. Cow's puppet.
Thank you.
She was sharp.
She was sharp.
Councilmember Finley vote for Amy Schmidt. Santos for Amy Schmidt. Coombs for Amy Schmidt. Bagley for Amy Schmidt. Moore for Amy Schmidt. Christensen for Amy Schmidt. And Peck for Amy Schmidt. So Amy Schmidt will fulfill that unexpired term. The next one is the Callahan House Advisory Board. There are 3 regular member terms ending December 31st, 2019. And there are 2 applicants, Deepa McCauley and Karen Cruz.
Councilmember Bagley?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I don't know, I'm sure I've met her, but I don't know Deepa McCauley, and she didn't show up for an interview.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess I'm hesitant to appoint someone who didn't show. I know she's a board member.
I asked my wife, Kristen, and she says that she attends all the stuff and is a good board member, so I'm just...
All right. Okay, all right.
And I apologize, I don't know the circumstance of why maybe she didn't attend.
I'm taking your word for it, Mayor. Double hearsay there. I move that we appoint Deepa McCauley and Karen Cruz to the Callahan House Advisory Board, both regular member terms ending December 31st, 2019.
All right. Okay. Passes.
Got it.
Coughing.
7-0, thank you. The Golf Course Advisory Board, we have 3 spots, 2 regular member terms and 1 unexpired term, and 3 applicants, John Bishop, Christopher Hill, and Shannon Wheeler.
Councilmember Bagley?
I thought we had 4. I recall that I thought Dan Olson also applied. He was interviewed under the Parks and Rec Board,
But he said
but
he would serve,
also said,
but I don't think he formally applied. Didn't formally apply.
right. Right. We could appoint him anyway, though, right? You know, I'm just pointing out that I thought we had 4. He might not have done it formally, but I do remember him saying that he wanted to be considered for both.
Yeah, but I thought because we didn't have anybody for the other one, he said
No, we didn't. Parks and Rec, we haven't voted yet, but Parks and Rec have.
Yes, he is listed there.
Right, he's listed there, but Doug Gollier and Amy Saunders are both, there's 2 spots on Parks and Rec, and Doug and Amy are both applying, not knowing how that vote's going to turn out. But could we actually, is anybody opposed to voting on Parks and Rec first? Yeah.
There's 3 people and there's 3 positions. Was somebody you don't like?
It's not a matter of not liking. But we can keep, yeah, that's just my idea, but I'm 1 of 7, so let's vote for golf course.
Vote for golf course?
Yeah, I'm not the boss.
Yeah.
Me neither.
As much as I love being the boss, I ain't the boss.
Should we just vote for the uninspired term and the other 2 get the regular term, or what's the best way to do this?
Whichever way you like to do that. Want to vote for the 1 position first, the 1 unexpired term?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have ballots.
Oh. How are we going to do this? Councilmember Bagley.
Thanks, Mayor Coombs. I move that we appoint Dan Olson to the unexpired regular term ending December 31st on the Golf Course Advisory Board.
Well, I
Wasn't seconded.
yeah.
Only way it was going to happen.
you
Okay.
would prefer to
Yeah.
do ballots for the others, we can leave that one to the end and make some up on blank pieces of paper.
Okay.
Or do
Councilmember
it by
Santos?
motion.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move that we appoint John Bishop and Shannon Wheeler to the 2 regular member terms ending December 31st, 2019.
Second.
All right. All in favor? So now it's
Mayor Coombs.
Bishop and Wheeler,
Councilmember
2019. Okay.
Santos?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move that we appoint Christopher Hill to the 1 unexpired regular term ending December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Thank you very much. I apologize for that. Housing and Human Services Advisory Board, we did not receive any applications. There are 3 positions open, so we'll just need to re-advertise those. Any help you can do getting the word out would be great. The next one is Master Board of Appeals, 2 positions, 1 alternate, full term, and 1 alternate. Actually, they both look like alternate full terms. They just have different ending dates. 1 applicant, Donato Russell, who is a current board member.
Councilmember Santos?
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I move we appoint Donato Russell to the 1 alternate member term ending December 31st, 2018.
I'll second that.
Said it first.
Okay.
I'm not the boss, but I get the second.
Councilmember Finley, I didn't get your vote. She's deciding.
Did you vote?
Okay.
Okay.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, we have 2 regular member terms ending December 31st, 2019. 6 different applicants. You do have ballots for this one, for sure.
Mayor?
Councilmember Bagley?
I move that we appoint Doug Gollier and Amy Saunders to the 2 regular member terms ending December 31st, 2019.
Well, we're voting
I
by
know,
paper.
but it would have been a lot easier. See the writing on the wall, just trying to get out of here.
Councilmember Christensen's still there, sorry. Thank you.
The pleasure of voting, yes.
Everybody voted for 2, thank you. Councilmember Finley for Gallagher and Saunders. Bagley for Adkins and Saunders.
No. It was Doug and Amy.
So,
Should be
second
Doug
set of
and Amy.
eyes on this
We have a hanging
ballot here.
Chad.
Adkins,
Yeah, that was not my vote, sorry. I don't know why I checked that box.
would you like to
That's
correct
it.
your
Yeah, I'll
ballot?
correct
Is
it.
this legal?
Doug and Amy.
Okay. They are both Dougs, and they're right next to each other.
Wrong Doug. Sorry.
Councilmember Moore, Doug Gallagher, and Amy Saunders. Thank you, Sean. Mayor Coombs, Adkins, and Saunders. Peck, Hunter, and Saunders. Santos, Gallagher, and Saunders. And Christensen, Gallagher, and Saunders. So the 2 appointees will be Doug Gallagher and Amy Saunders. Planning and Zoning Commission, we have 1 regular member term ending December 31st, 2021, 3 alternate terms ending December 31st, 2018. You do have ballots, and we have 6
What are we voting
applicants.
on now?
Voting for the regular term?
Regular.
Regular term, please, sorry, yes.
Regular term. I voted for the other one,
which
too.
board?
Yeah.
Hey, hanging Chad, whatever.
Okay, this is it. We're voting for 1 regular term?
For the 1 regular term, yes, please, on this first ballot.
But I saved the paper.
Okay.
Just keep my vote up there.
He makes it hard. Thank you.
Make sure that's off. If you have it.
Councilmember Peck, I'm going to hold that to the side. So for the 1 regular member term, Coombs selected Rodriguez, Finley, Rodriguez, Christensen, Poland. Moore, Poland. Bagley, Poland. Santos, Poland. And then Councilmember Peck, is not selected. Would you like to? I apologize. Oh, can you give me another one? All right, so Michael Poland will fill the one regular member term ending December 31st. If you'd please vote another ballot, 3 choices for the 3 alternate member terms. Councilmember Bagley, you have voted for 2.
I have.
You have, that's, okay. Thank you. All right.
I don't let anybody look at mine.
Thank you. So Bagley has voted for Kohler as an alternate and Rodriguez as an alternate. Let me go on the other side. Coombs selected Kohler as an alternate, Rodriguez as an alternate, and then has a write-in candidate, Mark Fritz.
He was in our packet. We interviewed him.
Finley voted for Kohler, Rodriguez, Wilderman. Peck for Kohler, Ormsby, and Rodriguez. Santos for Kohler, Rodriguez, Wilderman. Moore for Allen, Kohler, and Rodriguez. And Christensen for Kohler, Ormsby, and Wilderman. So the 3 alternates with the most votes will be Selena Kohler and Aaron Rodriguez. I'm sorry, what?
Councilmember Moore?
So Don, did we put Wilderman on Master Board of Appeals?
Yes. We did.
He was not listed there. It was Donato Russell.
I thought we voted on that Master. We didn't vote. I thought he'd already been.
Board of Adjustment and Appeals.
Board of Adjustment and Appeals, yeah.
Right.
Oh, Adjustment and Appeals. Yes, that is correct. Yes.
We
my
assigned him to
apologies.
that board?
Yeah.
So there was a motion to appoint him to Adjustment and Appeals. Thank you. Yes, I did not note that he was on both.
So
he would not be able to serve on this one. Is that your? Keep him on Board of Adjustment and Appeals, not in Planning and Zoning. So we have only 2 people, Kohler and Rodriguez, with enough votes.
So who are the other top, the next?
The next top is Ormsby with only 2.
And
Is that how that rolls?
actually, Mayor Coombs?
Or would you like to vote again?
I only voted for 2, and the reason I did not vote for Mark Fritz or Gene Allen, just if you guys would look at their planning and zoning applications, they were unfamiliar with the board. Both were unfamiliar with what was going on and didn't appear to have the background necessary to actually, I think, adequately contribute to the board. So I'd actually move that we repost rather than appoint
For the
one.
third vacancy, the third alternate member vacancy.
I'll second.
All right.
We can,
Can I vote on reposting it? Okay.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that catch, Councilmember Moore. Senior Citizens Advisory Board. Let's vote first on the 2 regular member terms ending December 31st, 2019. If that's how you, that's okay?
which one's this one?
Senior?
Senior City, Senior City.
Let's see if you can read that one. I'm giving you 5 hanging chads. You can interpret. I trust you.
5 hanging chads, is that what you
5 of them,
said?
5 hanging chads.
No wonder. So Finley voted, let's see, Criggett and Mendoza. Coombs voted Kokanor. I'm not sure how to say that. I apologize.
That's right.
That's right. Mendoza. Moore voted Kokanor and Norris. Christensen voted Kokanor, Mendoza. Bagley voted Kokanor, Mendoza. Santos voted Kokanor, Mendoza. And Peck voted Norris and Heapkey. So the 2 regular members will be Wilma Kokanor and Juana Mendoza. Then I preserved Mayor Coombs and Councilmember Bagley's ballot because they also indicated their alternates on the same ballot.
Kathleen Norris, 18, and the other Unex, 17. Please.
Same.
So the next one will be for 1 unexpired regular member term ending December 2017. If you want to just go one by one on these last 3.
Okay. Started out ours.
She's already got it.
Skyers, yeah.
Yeah, I have to.
They're overachievers.
Okay, so Councilmember Bagley, let me interpret here, Heapkey for the 17. Mayor Coombs,
I wanted Kathleen Norris to be on the 18,
so Criggett,
on the 17th.
Moore, Criggett, Christensen, Heapkey, Councilmember Peck, Norris for the 18, so Criggett for the 17, okay, and Santos, Criggett, Finley, Criggett. So that the 1 unexpired term ending in 17 will be Michelle Criggett. And then if you like, we could do the last 2 on one ballot. One is an unexpired and one is an alternate. If you indicated unexpired with a U and alternate with an A, I could understand that.
Yeah, look,
Kathleen Norris and Carol.
Carol Heapkey. You could also do it by motion, if that were easier.
Yeah.
See ballots flying?
all right.
A,
Sounds great, thank you.
I filled that out wrong, but Carol Hickey didn't even show. She didn't show.
yeah, no show.
Thank you.
You can get away with that.
Trying to think of these. Okay, so the 1 unexpired in 18 is the position I will do next. Coombs voted Norris. Peck voted Norris. Bagley voted Norris. Okay. Finley voted Norris.
No.
Bagley voted Norris. And Coombs voted Heapkey. Santos voted Heapkey. Moore voted Norris. And Christensen voted Norris. So for the unexpired term,
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead. Councilmember Bagley.
I just want to point out that I've never met Carol Heapke. She didn't show for her interview. So I'd actually move that we repost.
Okay.
so repost the alternate position?
Yes. But what's the result of the honest, it was Norris, right?
Norris for the unexpired term ending in 2018. Yes,
Okay.
that was that result. So we will repost, can I see your vote again? I'm sorry, to repost the alternate?
And if Ms. Heapke would, we can re-interview her or interview her.
I will pass that along. And the last one of these, and then we will be done, is the Visit Longmont Board. We have one term, regular member term ending December 2019. Two applicants, Elise Davis and Florian Herman. We have ballots on this one.
Mayor Coombs?
Councilmember Bagley.
I move that we appoint Alice Davis to a regular term ending 12/31/2019, given that Florian Herman didn't show for the interview.
Vote.
Santos voted Davis. Christensen Herman. Moore Davis. Bagley Davis. Coombs Davis. Finley Davis, and Peck Davis. So Alice Davis would be appointed to the Visit Longmont Board. Thank you very much. Those are all the appointments, and we will re-advertise those vacancies.
Okay. So now's time for final call, public invited to be heard. Is anybody from the public who'd like to speak at this time?
Oh, thank you again. All right. I just want to thank the council for passing Resolution 123. I want to thank Councilmember Christensen for putting herself out there and getting this done. And I want to say to the people who did not support it that I think you're mistaken in two ways. One is, I think this is not something that can be swept under the rug. I understand the feeling of wanting to not talk about it anymore, but I think that the people who saw something to oppose in this are inferring something that just wasn't there. I don't think there's anyone who disagrees with the idea that there is a wound that needs to heal. And this resolution is just one little stitch in the wound. And if you don't stitch a wound, then it continues to bleed. And that's why it shouldn't be opposed on the grounds of inference that it's making the wound deeper, because it's not. I'm not afraid, and I'm not angry either. I'm inspired to be of help in the healing, and I hope everyone will take that attitude. And now I want to quit because it's late, and I don't want to keep anybody here. So thank you all.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak at final call, public invited to be heard? Okay. Now it's time for mayor and council comments. Councilmember Finley.
Thank you, Mayor Coombs. I have a business of the week. I haven't had one for a couple weeks, but tomorrow Whole Foods is opening down at Village at the Peaks. So I think everyone who's in town should go down there and check them out.
It is opening, right? Okay. Okay, all right, you just look a little iffy.
I was there.
Well, Bonnie, you took my thunder. For all the people in this community that doubted that they're going to open, it's happening. I'm going to be there tomorrow. I hope you all will too. Yeah, 8:30 is when I'm supposed to be down there.
In the morning?
Yeah, I guess so.
No, apparently we missed out on that invitation.
Yeah, we didn't get the invitation.
I remember that from Whole Foods.
Well.
Oh, well.
Represents.
Okay, does anybody else like to speak at council comments? All right. City manager, any additional remarks?
No comments, Mayor, Council.
City attorney, any remarks?
Definitely no comments.
All right, this meeting's over.